All right, we're just about to begin, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have the panel discussion session of our symposium today. We're scheduled to have 4 speakers, but we will get started with those who are here. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to have presentations from the speakers who we'll be featuring today. We do have 4 speakers scheduled to be here. We have Mr. Melarka Williams, Mrs. Donnell Watson Banks, Mr. Mario Sparks, and Miss Natasha Sampson. I know I saw Natasha here. I hear she's on her way back. Okay. So what we will be doing is we will have presentations from each of these speakers. It's going to be along the same theme, the future of IT jobs, from each of their perspectives. We will then have a time for question and answers. So I'll invite you to use the microphone that's provided to bring up the questions, and they will answer them. I will facilitate the question and answer discussion. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the presentations in that order: Melarka, Donnell, Mario, and Natasha, and then we will go into the question and answer section. So just to give you a little background on the speakers, Melarka Williams is the CEO. We make a lot of jokes at our council meetings about the C officers there, and we give the CEOs the precedent they require. So Melarka is one of the CEOs of the group, and he heads a company called Ingenuity. He's going to talk to us about the future of IT jobs with a focus on software engineering. His presentation will give us a roadmap and a framework of how to orient a career in software engineering. So, and he's really bought into the theme of that the minister put forward about not just being users of technology, but creators of content and creators of new technology. So that's Melarka Williams, who will go first. Please welcome him. Well, I'm going to introduce everybody else first. Okay. After Melarka, we will have Mrs. Donnell Watson Banks. She's the Director of Information Technology at the Jamaica Public Service. So I know she has all of our attentions with the technologies that she will speak about. And if you haven't tried the app, I wholly endorse it. It is very, very useful. I've been able to tell my wife when there's a power outage coming up, and that makes me look good, so I like that. So she will take us through the trends in technology as they are affecting the electric utilities. She's been with the Jamaica Public Service for 5 years, and she will bring together the effects of the 4th Industrial Revolution and the convergence of the cyber-physical, the information technology, the operation technology that she's seeing from her seat. So we look forward to that. Welcome, Donnell Watson Banks. A little bit better than that, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Please make her feel welcome. Thank you. Our next speaker is our panelist will be Mr. Mario Sparks. He's another one of the big C's. He's the CEO of MS Tech Solutions. He has quite a deep history in the information technology field. He used to work for Nortel Networks and Avaya. He's coming to us to present on the business value that we can gain from innovative solutions. I have heard Mario speak before, and he has some very interesting perspectives on the effect of IoT and how he uses it for his customers. So I hope we'll hear a little bit about that today to Mario. So welcome, Mr. Mario Sparks, CEO of MS Tech Solutions. We're also scheduled to have Ms. Natasha Sampson. She is the CIO of the tax administration Jamaica. So all the jokes you heard earlier about somebody from the tax authority that we're pointing out were directed solely at Natasha. She's running a little late. She was here, but I understand she had to deal with something, and she's on her way back. She's on her way back. So she will also give a perspective on the future of IT jobs in the public sector, which I am definitely looking forward to being in the public sector myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've given you some background on our panelists. They will each make a presentation for about 10 minutes. They will go in the order that I've outlined, and then I will come back up and invite questions to them. So without any further noise from Douglas, I will turn it over to Mr. Melarka Williams.
All right, good morning, everyone. Yeah, time. Yeah, just checking. All right, so today I'm going to talk about software engineering. And normally when people hear about software engineering, the first thing they think about is just coding. But what we're going to talk about is actually everything that's involved in the software development lifecycle or the software engineering lifecycle, especially quality assurance and testing, because there's currently a lot of opportunities right now within the market for quality assurance and testing. Well, first thing I want to talk about, I want to start off by talking a little bit about the history, because I'm actually a big believer in order for you, if you don't know where you're coming from, then you actually won't know where you're actually going. So let's talk a little bit about the history in terms of where everything is coming from. Well, IBM, for example, IBM Fortran was the first popularly used software engineering programming language. And software engineering didn't actually become a popular language until in the 1980s. And if you want to just look at, if you're not convinced as yet as to how far or what potential actually lies within software engineering, look at the growth in the software engineering occupation. We started out in 1990s, there was 120,000 software engineers worldwide, and as in 2016, there's 22 million. So that's actually a staggering growth. And I'm actually convinced that we're actually just getting started, and Jamaica is actually poised to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, normally when people talk about software development, the first thing people talk about is website. Now, website is just a very, very basic form of software development or of software engineering. If you look at all of these things, I'm sure we're familiar with all of these things. Your phone. I like my phone. As I get up in the morning, for example, I check my phone, and there's an embedded software system that's actually powering this phone. If you think about your airplane, for example, that you actually go on, there's a software system within the airplane that's powering that. So every single thing that you do right now, everything that affects every facet of your life, there's a powerful software powering that. And it needs to be developed, and it actually needs to be tested. So that's very critical. So you can't do anything right now in this modern world without software. Now, let's put this into perspective. A Boeing 747, for example, have more lines of code than actually nuts and bolts. Don't you think that's amazing, guys? Like, when you think about the amount of nuts and bolts that might actually have to come together, they might have to actually put together to make something like that work, but yet it has more lines of codes than actual nuts and bolts. So that's an amazing statistic. The other thing that you want to look at is software engineering is actually being used to fight or in the search for cancer. So it's widespread. Software is being used for every single thing, and I keep on stressing that because I want you to know when everybody leave here today, they want to go into something that has to do with software or something that's actually software based. So I'm going to play a little video from some thought leaders on their view on software development.
I learned code in college, freshman year, first semester, intro to computer science.
No, it's fine. It's fine. All right. So this is not the kind of software that we're going to be building in Jamaica. All right. So essentially, what's happening? That's just the various thought leaders, people from Facebook, people from Google, Microsoft, wherever it is. They are saying that this is a serious field that we should consider. So that's what they're actually talking about. All right. So how does one become a software engineer? I would say the first thing that you need to do is you need to be good at math, or to study math, because you'll actually be required to do a lot of critical thinking. I would say start early. Start early as possible. As soon as you can start working with software, that's important. At my daughter's school, for example, they start teaching them about computers from they're about 2, which I think is actually a really good thing that's happening in Jamaica. There are a lot of free resources that you can learn, that you can go to learn how to code. There's code.org, there's Coursera. The other thing is that you might need to learn, you will actually need to learn some core programming languages, Java, PHP, Python, SQL. So these are basic skills that you'll actually need to learn. The other thing is, earn a degree in computer science. You can earn a degree in computer science. You can earn an engineering degree, for example. These are actually good foundations. And the other thing is to seek an internship. Now, one of the things that you don't want is that you don't want to wait until you actually finish with school to get some amount of practical experience. So I would actually implore you to use your summers or use your time in school to seek some kind of internship. The other thing is to find job opportunities. Now, looking for job opportunities is hard, and it's the reason why I'll implore everybody to join the JCS. Join the JCS network. If you join the JCS, for example, you might actually meet your next potential employer who can actually employ you. So you join the JCS, you keep up to date, you keep in touch with these C-level executives, you let them know about the projects that you're working on, your major project, for example, when you actually plan to graduate. And when you're graduating, you say, hey, sir, I'm looking to graduate next year, for example, and they would have known you over a 2-year period, so it's a lot easier for them to employ you. All right, so job outlook. What does the job outlook, what does the job market actually look like? Some critical information. Glassdoor, which is an international recruitment agency, says that 8 of the top 25 jobs are actually IT-based. 8 of the top 25 jobs worldwide are actually IT-based. Really critical. The other thing about it is that the employment within software engineering is expected to grow by 17% starting in 2014. And that will actually make it one of the fastest growing fields worldwide. You can stay within software engineering. There's a lot of opportunity for salary growth. So, sometimes we start out initially doing something, and what we find is that because we start out doing it, there's not a lot of career advancement, so you might want to switch something. You don't have to do that. You can actually enjoy a 60% career growth within software engineering. And software engineering enjoys one of the lowest unemployment rate. So when you study software engineering, you'll be somewhat guaranteed that you'll actually have a job. Various types of work environment. What does the environment actually look like? You can work at a consulting company like Ingenuity. You can go and work in the financial services sector, or you can work in the utility sector. If you're working with a consulting company like ours, one of the key things is that you're actually going to be the ones creating the technology. You're going to be building things from scratch. So I always tell my team you have to have a big back or a broad back, because there's nobody to hide behind. You are the one, you're coming in out of school, we're training you for 3 to 6 months, and you come in, and after receiving that training, you have to be the one building out those solutions. If you're in a consulting company, you might be assigned to various projects, so there might be a lot of traveling, so you might travel to other parts of the Caribbean, other parts of the world to actually work on projects, or you might actually be based in-house working on these projects. Career advancement, what can you do if you decide after about 3 to 5 years to leave the field? I always recommend that people spend at least 3, on average 5 years within the field after leaving university before you actually decide that you want to do a career change. You can move on, you can become a project manager, you can be a solution architect, or if you so desire, you can actually move on to the C-suite. You'll find that a lot of persons with engineering background actually end up in the C-suite. Yeah. Oh yeah, C-level, meaning like a CEO or a chief information officer like Doug or a chief information officer like Sheldon, you know? So you might actually end up there. Yeah. All right, so what does the future look like? What does the future look like for software engineering? Um, I think that the future is going to be characterized by a lot less software development. Internal ingenuity, for example, we're using a revolutionary tech called Bubble. And what Bubble allows you to do is that Bubble allows you to build out a software using visual development. So you don't have to do hardcore development anymore. And it actually allows us to deliver on our value proposition of actually rolling out an MVP or a prototype in 10 days. On the testing side, what's going to happen on the testing side is that you're going to have a lot of automated testing. So that's something that we should look for in the future. All right, so Vision 2030. Now, I don't know how many persons are actually familiar with Vision 2030, but you know the whole premise of Vision 2030 is actually making Jamaica the place to live, work, and play, and raising family and raise family. And that's one of the things I'm very passionate about, and Jamaica Computer Society and JITSA is also very passionate about too. Now, Vision 2030, I think that software engineering can make a significant contribution to us achieving Vision 2030. And if we look at what the other countries are doing, for example, you'll realize that in India, software accounts for 41.7% of their total export. That's amazing. I mean, currently, right now, a lot of our GDP contribution is from remittance and tourism. And we know that tourism is very feeble. And as it relates to remittance right now, that's becoming a very touchy subject in the era of Trump, where he's actually looking to stop the tax remittance. So we might want to find a substitute for that soon. The other thing, an amazing thing is that India, as one of the largest software sectors, which contributes about 57% of its GDP in 2012. Now, the global software engineering market is projected to be a $50 billion market by 2022. Now, let's assume that in about a 5-year time, we can get probably a 10%, we can get a 10% cut of that worldwide market. That's about 5 billion, and that could contribute 33% to our GDP. I actually think that's amazing. All right, so business process outsourcing. We started in the call center market, and that's good, but we need to move up. We have a lot of persons who are leaving university on a yearly basis. The good thing about software engineering and quality assurance and testing is that we can actually utilize our existing infrastructure. We have good internet supply. There are a lot of persons leaving university every year. There's about 300 to 400 computer science leaving students leaving university every year, and these persons can actually come and work within the sector. Now, roadmap for the future. I didn't want to just come up here and talk about, hey, you know, this software engineering thing is something that we need to do. This quality assurance and testing thing is something we need to do. How can we actually make this a reality? I would say the first thing that we need to do is that we need to form a lot of allegiances with colleges and universities. These are private companies. Private companies need to go into universities and they need to help with curriculum development. This is something that, for example, the JCS is doing. We need to design and offer a work and study program. So just like how within the call center program, people can actually work while in school and work within the call center. Persons also need to be in engineering school and they can get that job opportunity to work. We need to attract Fortune 500 companies to Jamaica. I think the advantage of attracting a big company like Facebook and Twitter is that it will actually make us more competitive and we'll learn a lot from these companies. So these are some of the things that I think that we need to do, and these are some of the low-hanging fruits. So this is our roadmap, and I think after leaving here, one of the things that I wanted to make sure is that we didn't just come up and talk, but we have actionable items that we can look to action after today. So that's the end of my presentation. And I'll leave now and Doug here.
Thank you, Malarka. So thanks again, Malarka, for giving us that quick view on software engineering in Jamaica. As I told you, I wish I could go back a few years when I had that interest, when I had a hairline out to here. And maybe get started again. Let me take this moment to welcome Ms. Natasha Samson, who is here with us. As I told you, she's going to be here with us. Please welcome her. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to turn it over now to our next speaker, Mrs. Donnell Watts.
Good afternoon, everybody. I know just about, like right on the. So I know we have very limited time, so I'm just going to jump right into it. All protocols observed. So as you can see, I'll be talking about some of the tech trends in the utility sector, specifically the energy utilities, and what are some of the future opportunities and or requirements for IT professionals, right? So to do that, I want to just give you a very, very brief background on the energy sector. So it's over 100 years old, typically very, very slow to change. Started out very static. It was built for purpose, so we built a plant for just a factory, right? And then we've been having significant changes since, and we're moving into an era now where it's more smart. Everything is being driven by technology. And what is driving that? It's really the four industrial revolutions that we've gone through. So in the first industrial revolution, it was really about steam power, mechanization, that sort of thing. But since we hit the second industrial revolution, where we started looking at mass production and the assembly line, all of that has been driven by electricity, right? And then we've been moving to the third, where we talk about computer and automation, and now we're moving into cyber-physical systems and the Internet of Things, that sort of thing. And that's all being driven and powered by electricity, or some form of electricity, whether it's renewables or otherwise. So we need to be smart. And what does a smart utility mean? It means that it's hyper-connected. So every device is connected to each other, right? If there's an issue on the network, for example, the network itself should be able to operate on its own to correct the fault or to predict a fault so that it can prevent it from happening. It is more data-driven, and also it is more customer-centric. And that's a little interesting, because the question about who is a customer also changes. It's not just you, right? A customer for us becomes your washing machine. It becomes AC. The customer, the concept of a customer significantly changes in this era. And this whole transformation, this digitization is just changing a lot of things in the industry. So we talk about the customer, we talk about technology, we talk about regulations, we talk about the resources, innovation. Competition is a big one for us, because traditionally when we had competition, it was a utility person that's coming in to observe the status quo. Right now we're having competitors like a Google, Apple, that's investing millions of US dollars into the sector, again, because it powers just about everything we do. So our competition is changing, and that's also fueling the technology behind the sector, right? Data is changing. The business models then have to change, because we have to evolve to ensure that we remain relevant. Right, so I'm just going to focus on data, customer, and technology, because we really don't have much time, and talk about some of the trends in those areas, and really what, not jobs, but what skill sets are required to satisfy some of these trends. So the customer, right, as I said, customer options. That's a trend in not just the utilities, but in just about every sector. So we don't just, persons used to, I think, consider the utilities as a monopoly, and it's not, right? Because you have solar, you have renewables that's relatively inexpensive, and persons are moving away from the utility company. So competition and customer options is just numerous. So because of that, and also the way that they're communicating with us, the primary touch point is through technology. These things are changing how we operate, right? It's changing how we interact. Even at JPS, we have at least 8 different channels that we alone manage. I mean, we use external parties as well. But we have our app that Doug spoke to earlier. We have our website. We have kiosks. We have the office, yes. But there's so many different points. Social media is a big thing for most companies. So what does this mean in terms of skill sets that are required to support some of these things? Now, the primary ones that I wanted to highlight, we need social media integration. There is a lot of data that is coming through non-traditional media that we have to have the skill set to utilize and to harness so that we can make valuable business decisions, right? Human-computer interaction, that's big. We can't just design something and create something that works anymore. We need to create something that people actually want to use, that people feel good about using. So these are skill sets that, again, you can't just be a programmer. You have to be a programmer that is designing things that people want to use. Research is big as a skill set for any IT professional. Mobility and app development is something else, as well as digital marketing. So again, because our customers are not just walking in anymore, they're online, they're using digital media, we have to reach them where they are. And we have to present them with our options and with our offerings in a way that's pretty and pleasing and will actually attract them, pull them back to us. So those are some of the skill sets, I think, based on the customer trends that we need our new persons and our IT professionals to have. When we talk about data, some other things for the utilities that's impacting us. So location data, big data, algorithmic business, machine learning, and you would have heard about some of these earlier. Location data, we need to know where everything is. I need to know exactly where my pole is, exactly where a transformer is. I need to know, however, where my crews are. So if there's a fault on a network, I need to know which technician is closest to it so that I can reduce the downtime to the customer, right? And also reduce the downtime and the revenue loss for ourselves. So location data is big. Big data, again, because we're moving into a cyber-physical environment where there's sensors just around every corner, we need to pull all of that data. We need to pull the data from, again, your washing machine, all of these things that's touching the network, that's connected to the network. And we need to be able to make use of this data, right? Algorithmic business, again, all of this data coming in, we need a mechanism. We need to use more mathematical analysis, statistical analyses, these sorts of things to make better strategic decisions. So these are some things impacting our business. And you heard earlier about machine learning, where we're automating, we're moving away from just the typical, I need a man, somebody to come and do this. Yes, somebody could do it, but the time in which we need it done, the amount of data that we have to sift through to be as effective as possible, we want to move towards machine learning. So the skill sets then for us, we need GIS integration, we need data mining, data architecture. So somebody who will be looking at this data and creating a meaningful architecture. How do we create this or represent this or present this in a way or structure this in a way, that it becomes useful to different areas of the business? And that analytics, data visualization. So yes, it's all well and good I can structure it, and it's all well and good that I have all of this data. But if I can't present it in a way that is meaningful to anybody, it is just as useless. So data visualization is definitely something that we in the utilities is very interested in. And again, machine learning. And the last thing I want to touch on is technology. And this could go on and on and on for days because it changes, I'd say, by the second, especially in the industry that I work right now, which for me is very, very exciting. But you heard some of these things already. Energy management is a trend in the utilities. Cloud computing, energy, electric vehicles, storage, renewables, smart grid. Some of you may have heard about our Kingston 2.0 project, which we're aiming to be the first smart city in the region. High availability, IT as a service, IoT, all of these things. Automation, autonomous agents, drones and that sort of thing, 3D printing, virtual reality, and adaptive security. So I didn't touch on everything here because we really don't have a lot of time, but for everything that is represented here, there's so much that you can do with it. There's so many places in terms of your career that you can go with just picking one or the other, right? For us in particular, some of the things that we love as emerging skill sets, young persons coming up, enterprise architecture is big. It's big because the industry is changing so much, and we need to find a way, a structured way of bringing the people, the technology, the processes together, figuring out the data flows, figuring out the governance around all of that. So that is a skill set, again, that we definitely want to utilize and want to see more of. Coding of sensors. Now, every sensor that we pretty much put on our network, we get overseas, right? And we need to bring that locally. We really need to develop the skill sets here where we're building those sensors, but also coding them to do what it is we need them to do. Security, as everybody has mentioned, is huge. And I don't want to just focus on security for the security manager. Everybody that touches technology and just even look at technology needs to be security conscious. Everybody, right? There is just, it is just too important. Your development team or you as a developer, you have to code with that in mind. It is absolutely critical, guys, because we need to plug all the holes, and if it is that it's not built in from the ground up, it's not going to be built properly. So security is big for us. Network programming and communications, as I said, in a smart era, everything is talking to each other and is speaking via some kind of telecommunication, some kind of communication protocol. So we actually are moving, especially for us at JPS, our network is a major part of our infrastructure, because we have to carry that data. We have to figure out how are we routing this data in an appropriate manner and almost near real-time manner so that we can make use of it in real time. So we need people, again, with that kind of skill set. Virtual reality design. So we have, for example, it's hurricane season, and we typically go through weeks and weeks of simulation training for hurricane, right? Just in case this happens, how do we need to react? And even then, it's not perfect because you can't simulate everything that might happen. But if we move to virtual reality design, where we can create more of those structures, we significantly reduce the time, for example, it requires for training, and also significantly increase how much we can do at a training session, what scenarios we can go through with virtual reality. So it will increase and improve our emergency response. API and integration, again, guys, huge. So we spoke about software as a service and everything as a service. And you have people that are creating these structures and these platforms that we need to interact with. But we need to be able to do that, again, well, right? So we need people that can create those links into those platforms so that we can make use of the latest and the greatest that is being used in the first world. High availability, I really had to put that one there, even though it's not new, but we're not just building systems for a one man to be using in this office. I need to build a system that is located in multiple locations, that if I lose, for example, 2 of my servers, the customer, the person using it, has no idea, right? So it needs to be always on. We can't say we're going to smart if it is that if we lose a server, it's unavailable for 3 hours. So high availability is critical. Again, self-service, because we spoke about the talent pool and the requirement for some form of IT, at least training and know-how, but really and truly, every single job, we need people to at least have an appreciation for it. The mundane IT tasks where, okay, I need to create a user account for you. We don't have time for it. It's a waste of time and resources for everybody. So we actually need to be creating systems where those tasks, the persons can do them themselves, right? It's just a service that your button you click, okay, I need to reset my password, whatever it is. And we're moving more to self-service. So drone programming, we have drones that we use. However, right now they're manned, so somebody flies them and we capture images and then somebody goes through that. We actually want to move to a scenario where they're automated. I have a route, this drone flies this route, it surveys, it does an analysis and says, okay, right here needs to be bushed, this transformer is gonna go bad in X time, that sort of thing. That's where we need to get to. And then cloud development, right? Again, we need to be able to code for the cloud. So my friend here is asking me, is that it? And almost. So when I started the presentation, these for us, in terms of where we're going, where technology is going, and I'd say in the next 2 or so years, these skill sets are top of mind for us. But there are also some core things, some core principles that I really didn't want to leave this platform without mentioning them again. It's things you know, but I've found that in interacting with a lot of new IT persons, there are things that we don't necessarily do or take as serious anymore. And what are those? Things like customer service, right? And it sounds simple, but we don't have the option. So the minister mentioned the IT guy. No, that's not us. My customer are persons like Doug. Doug is using my app. If he has a problem, I should be able to speak to him, right? I'm not just speaking to a computer. I'm not just coding. I'm locked away in a data center. That's a thing of the 1980s. So customer service is critical. Malarka mentioned creativity and critical thinking as well. You would have seen troubleshooting and problem solving, resourcefulness, guys. Yes, there's Google, but you have to to function in this environment, be able to be resourceful and find things and find just different things to help do your work and to help make you better. Leadership. I think Steve had mentioned the VP of Innovation for Ford, who was promoted to CEO. Because in IT, if technology is going to be driving these industries that we work in, the IT person has to have that leadership vision. It is absolutely critical for us to lead these industries that we work in. Again, we're not being dragged along. We're not the tail anymore. We're actually becoming the head, and we have to act as such. Entrepreneurship, because of how things are changing, you really have, I think, a space where you can go into an organization, you can figure out where the gaps are, and you can kind of create your own role, right? You can create what it is you become in that company, even though you don't have your own company, because there's so many things that's happening, there's so many changes that's happening, and there's so many gaps that are there that need to be filled, but you have to have the presence of mind and also the desire to want to fill it. And project management, I can't stress that enough. It never goes away, guys. It really never goes away. You need to be able to manage projects. We work with time and budget, yes. It's just a piece of it, but we need to be able to manage projects and value proposition and making sure that we deliver that to the persons that we work for. Speed and agility and learning. Edie Weiner, she's a futurist. I really don't remember the company she works for. But she said the age of education, where we just go to school and we get a degree and move on, is done, right? We're in the age of continuous learning. So no matter how old you are still learning. As in a session with, I think, Dr. Trevor Little, and he said, we're speaking about the same thing, about continuous learning. And if you go into bed at night, you should ask your question before you go to sleep, what did I learn today? And if you can't answer that, you need to get back out of bed and go read something because you haven't earned the right to sleep, right? So I'll leave that with you. And there's just 2 quotes that I want to leave with you. So the best way, guys, we are here talking about we really don't know, but the best way to predict the future for you is to create it. Again, that entrepreneurship mind, you have to find those gaps and figure out, for us in Jamaica, where do we want to go? How do we want to lead the world? And we basically just need to stand in that gap and move forward. And then the last one is, one machine can do the work of 50 ordinary men, but no machine can do the work of one ordinary man. And we are looking, and we're looking, Jamaica needs, or businesses need, extraordinary people, not just the regular IT person that wants to come and reset a password. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Donnell. Extraordinary man or woman, right? I was surprised you guys didn't chime in with that, yeah? Yeah. Okay, we're just gonna have a slight change here. I've been told that Natasha has a time constraint, so I'm gonna ask her to come up next. We also do apologize for the challenge that we've been having with the audio-visual technology, where Sheldon is currently loading some artificial intelligence to figure it out. So we're going to ask Natasha to come up and speak to us about the public sector perspective as soon as we get the AV challenge sorted out. So welcome, Natasha, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's afternoon. All right. Let me first apologize for the constant changes in the schedule. I promised Sheldon about a month ago that I would have been present for this event. And when you're a civil servant, you don't really have control of your time, right? So you respond to other people's call. So I want to start out by saying my name is Natasha Sampson and I'm a civil servant. And out of fear of sounding like a recovering addict, I must say for years, I wasn't able to say that, working in the public sector. And that was because of the negative connotation that persons associated with public sector workers. You know, we have students, the damn civil servants, yeah, that don't do anything, lazy, right? Okay, well, guys, I can tell you, things are changing. Okay, things are changing. It is, however, a process, and in the public sector, sometimes things move slow. However, it's coming. Sometimes, no, we're accustomed to it, you know, so I'm prepared. I'm prepared for it. Over the years, I can tell you, I've certainly gotten the licks, and I respect them, I appreciate them, and I'm trying to be a part of the change, right, that we all want to see. So I am a civil servant, but I'm first a Jamaican, I'm a taxpayer, and so I have a keen interest in what happens to my tax dollar. All right, so I want to start out by looking at a sort of current state, and the graphic on screen is not quite where we are now, but it's sort of where we started. All right, but again, things are changing. So what were some of the issues that we encountered as a government, right, that is now driving the change and the need for us to invest more in ICT and have ICT be that real enabler, that real agent of change? And this was it. Siloed and under-resourced ICT operations across ministries, agencies, and departments. And our failure as entities of government to talk to each other, to share information, opened the door for exploitation. And this exploitation, I can tell you, has yielded great returns for some of our industry players, right? Because they were able to sell one government the same solution 3, 4, 5, 6 times, right? Because each entity having its own budget was able to go off on its own, purchase a solution. Sometimes the budget is inadequate to purchase a complete solution, so you have some half-baked solution inside of the entities. And this contributed to the quality of service that they were able to deliver because we just really didn't have proper systems, right, to start with. Things, however, are changing. We're talking now. Another issue we had was the absence of an appropriate ICT governance framework. And this governance framework was what it was required to have visibility right across GOG to see what was happening in all those ministries, agencies, and departments. All right? What was happening was that we had the procurement roadway was busy with activities, right? But the street lights called IT governance were out of service, right? And that did a grave injustice to this country, but things are changing. The issue of big data. Now, there's nothing that the government of Jamaica has more than data. But again, with the silos, it's all over the place. We're not talking. So, you know, we had the citizen were able to laugh at us. Boy, you're going to interact with this entity, right? And you're not in compliance over there, but you can go and do business with the other entity and access refunds. And listen, we don't know what's going on. But guess what? Things are changing. The call and the argument, right, for bring your own device, the risk associated with use of the internet, all those channels that we're using to bring convenience and options to our customers are what the would-be villains, right, are exploiting. And so we had that challenge. Or internal customers who think they should be able to come in and just plug in their device, regardless of where it has been, where it's coming from, right? And the administrative overhead as well as the cost to try to secure our internal environment so that our customers interacting with us likewise can feel safe was also a challenge, but things are changing. All right, so delivering and supporting all the intended and desired service, as I said, in a secure and efficient manner. So efficiency was always one of those things that persons complained about the government. We were inefficient. So how do we bring about the speed and the efficiency, the convenience where our customers want to be able to use their own device in their own space, at their own time to do their transactions? That also was a factor for us to consider as we went on the continuum of change. Recruiting and retaining a cadre of ICT professionals with the appropriate skill sets to support the organization, government in general, a challenge. Because everybody knows that government don't pay well. And so it was hard to retain those critical skill sets that you now need in this climate, right, to be able to provide the solutions to support and maintain those solutions that are essential to your operations. And so that challenge also had to be factored in the mix. So what was GOJ's response? Having all of those issues. The first was an assessment of the local ICT ecosystem. And the first evidence of the government of Jamaica taking this whole matter serious was the introduction of the first GOJ CIO. And that move heralded, I think, a campaign for change that a lot of the public sector entities eventually bought in on. So that CIO created first a steering committee and a project team for ICT transformation. And we brought on board about 50 or so MIS officers across the various ministries, agencies, and departments. And they were engaged, as well as we engaged JITSA, we engaged academia, right, to look at what are some of those things that we need to take into consideration as we seek to move ICT forward and give it the pride of place that it really deserves, right, as we seek our growth or progress agenda, whichever way you want us, right, just to be balanced. Okay, all right. So the next was an ICT transformation roadmap, and this is what emanated from the work of that team, right? The governance structure that was established, it's still a little bit of work in progress, and critical to that governance structure I would want to draw your attention to is that of the Program Portfolio Management Committee, which in essence is going to be operating as that ICT clearinghouse, right? And so every single ministry, agency, department, regardless of under which parent ministry you fall, will be required first, prerequisite before you can make any submission to that committee. Your business case and your project charter, right, have to be completed. A lot of the initiatives that would have been undertaken by the government of Jamaica did not originate with a proper business case, all right? An entity had money, some smart guy, possibly in IT, decided, let's buy one of those. And that is how it ended up in the organization. The creation of a new ICT organization aligned to the governance framework. So, can't say very much about this at this time. The structure is still being finalized, But in essence, it's about centralizing our operations. So no longer, I'm from tax, that tax can claim that all of the ICT resources are tax ICT resources. We will have clusters and your skill set based on the cluster that you're in. If there's a project to be launched, then you call upon the requisite skill sets, right? And that organization, which will be called the ICT Authority, will then have to report up and respond to the governance framework that has been established. ICT institutional strengthening and staff development. Now, what we realize is that because we don't pay very well, sometimes we don't get the best of the crop. All right, so there are times when we do have persons that the skill sets are not as honed as they need to be. And so struggling with limited budget and the training budget is always the first thing. So the decision will be that all of those mission critical systems, it will not be optional. They will be housed in that centralized facility, whatever is deemed to be the government data center. All right, so the future of ICT in GOJ. So we're looking at unified, integrated, and centralized managed operations. We want highly trained and motivated workforce. We want to be a value center, enabling and supporting GOJ. We want to be customer focused and efficient, and we want to be performance based. Yeah? Before, the thinking was that you could do just about anything in government and you're not held accountable. It doesn't matter if you perform or not, your job is guaranteed. That is changing. So I want to know, focus, and I may be a little bit controversial in this part. So this is where I refer to this section as the Come to Jesus section, right? And I'm gonna be looking at some specific players, some stakeholders that we have to engage and have to partner with us. And I'm gonna start with academia. And there's a need for academia to be closer to what is happening on the ground in terms of industry. Yeah? We need to start looking at curricula to ensure that these are more in keeping with what the industry needs are. So we do not expect to get persons coming straight from the university, you know, sharp and ready to take on the world in ICT. We'll take them green, we'll take them turn. We don't want blossoms. And sometimes we're getting blossoms, all right? So we need to partner there. We also need to partner in terms of internship. So I did an ICT degree at the University of the West Indies. And I'm not bashing the University of the West Indies because I'm very, very proud of the University of the West Indies. But after I finished my first degree, I opted to go straight on to a master's. And that was to buy myself time because I needed some experience. Now, how did I get that experience? I had to volunteer, you know, friends having projects, and you know, tag along. You do free work just to get the experience. Because once you have gotten that, whereas somebody can hold you up and rob you, they can't take knowledge from you once you have attained it. All right? And then the matter of R&D, research and development. I don't think that we are inferior to any other country in this world. I think we have some of the best minds. So aptitude is not the issue. I think is in terms of guidance and resourcing some of these very bright minds to ensure that they can provide value to this country. And I think we now need to be partnering with the university. So one of the jokes while I was on campus used to be that some of the research projects that we would have gotten were actually material that lecturers needed for their PhD. And I'm saying, can we have some of the assignments being given to students, be areas of concerns to GOJ, that we have these students research and try to find solutions to? Yeah? So it's a possibility, and we want to explore that. All right. Okay, so implication for ITT students. And the first thing I want to say to students, let go of the notion of entitlement. it is something that is killing this country, right? Somebody owes you something. You see it on the news every day. So I throw the rubbish in the drain and it floods my place and the government need to come do something about it, right? No, somebody owes you something. So students, I'm telling you, nobody owes you anything. A degree does not entitle you to anything. You need to create, and you do not have to rely on being employed. You need to create your opportunities, right? Your approach and the attitude that you take towards how you determine what it is that you pursue, and it can't be, I'm just pursuing a degree. Yeah? Do your research. What is the market like? Yeah? Will there be an opportunity for employment or for me to start my own business based on what it is that I'm pursuing? But it's not a situation that as soon as you have completed your degree, government or the world owes you a job. That's not how it works. All right? Again, as I said, do voluntary service to get the experience. That's how I got a lot of experience. Right? My experience going into the public sector, going in ICT officially in a managerial capacity, and not really being accepted because you're an outsider coming in. There would have been persons inside with aspirations, and as such, you know, the first month or two is make with test our month. Yeah? And so there is that challenge that you have in regards to how much information you get. And if your knowledge is limited, God help you, you might not pass the probationary period, right? You lose the liquor work. Again, as I said, think entrepreneurship, yeah? Make a job, not just to seek a job, right? ICT is one of those areas that provides the greatest opportunity for you to do that. And in addition to your technical knowledge, one of the things that I hear very often is that you don't talk like the IT people. Or I'll be in and say, you know what happened, listen, you come and explain to us because they don't talk English and we don't understand them. Or you go to address an issue for a customer and you go do what you have to do, you walk away, and at most you may offer is good morning, and I'm finished. No, we need to engage a little bit more. We work in IT, but we need to prove that we are not robots, you know, we are human. And so that is very, very important that we work on those soft skills and to demonstrate that we are in fact not just the IT guys in a corner, but we are effective members of staff, right? Able to interact and rub shoulder. Now, solution providers. I'm gonna say the same thing to you. Let go of the notion of entitlement. By virtue of being a part of the local industry does not in itself entitle you to all of the projects that the state is undertaking, right? Deliver value on every contract. Deliver value on every contract, right? Let the quality of your work and the customer service, so sometimes the customer service is poor, yeah? So you win the bid, you've interpreted the bid as X, and you have delivered on that, but guess what happened? The customer is not getting the value that they set out. How do you treat with that situation? Do you just say, well, listen, I do what the bid said, that's it? And listen, if it is that you're looking for future work, that cannot be the approach. Not at all. The pie, as you know it, is getting smaller. Yeah? So with the GOJ entities now talking, right, coming together, we don't need 5 HR systems or 10 HR systems, right? We don't need 15 or 20 accounting packages. So I'm happy for that move in terms of the formation of JITSA, because you guys are going to have to talk among yourselves and decide who gets right of way, yeah? Or form some partnership. But in essence, I think it's time to start looking about how we start making new pies, yeah? Because you have to be coming with some other value proposition in terms of solutions. But selling the same systems and just trying to find another ignorant entity to buy it is not going to work. That's not the way that we move forward. Not only that, the efficiency losses in government is a vicious cycle. So when we spend on systems that we don't need and we have the budgetary shortfall, we're coming back at you to make up that deficit. Yeah? So it's a vicious cycle, and we all need to remember that. Practitioners, friends, again, let go of the notion of entitlement. So you've been in the organization for a while, and so now you're the guru, and all of a sudden, boy, everybody needs to talk to you. You're the repository of all knowledge. You hug it up, right? And then all of a sudden, the contract don't suffice anymore. So you signed on for X salary, it don't suffice anymore. And as opposed to leaving, you stay there and you try to make life miserable. If things are not suiting you anymore, leave. Yeah? Leave. Intellectual property rights. Now, when you're a salaried employee, you cannot be making claims to products that you would have developed for the employer, right? Your salary was your pay. So you cannot be insisting that what you have developed is yours and would even want to dare to try and have the copyright and all that sort of thing. These are some of the things that we would have encountered, you know, that persons would have attempted to do. No. It's experience, right? While it is that you are there, and if you are good enough, as oftentimes when you start to get that attitude, that is the thinking, then go and create value elsewhere, but don't stay in the system and frustrate the system. Don't burn your bridges. Yeah. Sometimes we get so large that all of a sudden, you know what happened? I don't need this. You do not remember that before you had experience, this was the entity that took the chance, that spent on you to develop you, right? Now, there is an estimate that the cost of replacing an employee is roughly the average salary of that, the annual salary for that employee. And before I move forward, I just wanted to say quickly something to my colleagues in academia. I saw figures coming from the University of the West Indies website to say that currently the contribution from government is roughly 74%. That figure is not correct? Across? Okay, all right. Now, sorry? Okay, all right. Whatever the figure is, these are monies that are being contributed towards the development of students. And back to the point in regards to the quality of the students that are coming out, the state really ought not to be paying twice. So whatever that investment is, there should be some returns on that investment, okay? And to my practitioners, colleagues, as I said in regards to don't burn your bridges, when it is that an organization spends on you to develop you, remember how valuable that knowledge and that investment now is to you. Don't burn your bridges. If time come, right? Make sure that you move. You leave in an amicable manner. Keep your skill sets honed. Now, you have some ICT practitioners. The same way you enter the organization, that is how you remain. So from year to year, there is no sign of growth and development. If the organization sends you off on a course, you're not seeing the returns. So one of the things that I have introduced in tax is that I've now started to twin the training with the certification exams, right? And that is the hope that you will see a benefit, a personal benefit in the training that is being offered, that you come away with a certification that the organization cannot take away from you when you leave, right? But then also a measure of the performance, whether or not you are coming away from that training with something. Because again, when we look at the investment in training, it is a significant figure, right? And I don't see where we are really reaping the rewards for that investment. So that is another issue to contend with. Your work ethic. There are some IT professionals that the work ethic is less than desirable. You think your specialized knowledge is sufficient. So regardless of how you are, how you behave, how you handle the work, or you do it when it is that you feel like that, we should be forced to contend with you. And that's not how it is. Because as an organization, if it is that you're disruptive and you're not fitting into the organization's culture, as opposed to having you disrupt that culture and the rest of the organization, it may be better for us to bite the bullet, absorb the cost of recruiting and move on. Okay, so the future of ICT jobs and the industry in Jamaica depends on all of us playing our respective roles effectively. It requires effective and sincere partnership, trust, and constant engagement among stakeholders. The dialogue has started, and the change is coming. Let's keep it going. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Natasha. I'm going to ask Mario to just come on up as we keep the time going. Thank you very much. Please welcome Mario.
Afternoon, everybody. Malarka, Natasha, and Daniel get into all of my 10 minutes. So, thanks again to the JCS for setting up this symposium. Well done, Sheldon. Before I start, I must say to Natasha that on the point that she made about the integrators feeling entitled, and this is my opinion, I believe if there is an international bid that is put up by the government of Jamaica in an effort to show the locals that you want to continue the development, similar to how you cannot procure land in some companies or start a business, I think it should be mandatory that if it's awarded to an external entity, there be a forced joint venture with a local person, so when the project is done and they leave the country, there is still local support. That is something that doesn't happen, and what you find is, you're left with a system that requires a significant level of support, and the resources are not here. It's not obviously that the skill sets aren't in Jamaica. We are, as they would say, them no better than we, right? So we need to show our local businesses and our local minds that we trust that you have the necessary requirements, and with the proper training, you can take over, if it is that the product is given elsewhere. So let me start. All right. Right. I don't have a very fancy presentation like my colleagues. I just wanted to talk to everybody. The topic I decided to speak on, it's something I'm very passionate about because it covers entrepreneurship and technology. I love speaking about technology and making money, right? So it's something I'm very passionate about. I wanted to quickly take everybody, just sort it down memory lane quickly. Out of university, I worked for an integrator, and that integrator, they specialized in, they were a managed service provider, right? Technology offering, network management, security offerings, and then I moved on to a company called Nortel Networks. Now, Nortel has been around since the 1800s, right? A massive telecoms company, was Cisco's major competitor. So at 23, I felt, I've made it, I've arrived, right? I'm the systems engineer for Nortel for the Caribbean, blah, 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 nobody can talk to me, right? No, about 9 months into my tenure at Nortel, they filed for something that is known to a lot now as Chapter 11, right? Which simply means that's pretty much bankruptcy. Where they are making a public declaration to their debtors that listen, we do not have any money. Stop calling us. That is essentially what it means. Now, imagine a situation where you're 23. You thought that you have everything figured out. You have this lovely job. You're working for a prestigious company, and the rug was just pulled from underneath you. And when that happened, I made a personal commitment about myself that this will never happen again. There are things in life that will happen and will throw you left field, but the most critical thing I believe is to learn from them and try and put things in place so that they don't happen again, right? I remember sitting down and seeing emails coming in from fellow engineers or person from Nortel. I've been with Nortel for some of the years, and older men, much older men, who I assume had kids in college, mortgages to pay. At the time, I was still living at home. I had no responsibilities. So it made me think years in advance that, listen, this could happen to me. So as Donnell spoke, I think it was the second to last slide, that the only way you can predict your future is if you create it. It's very simple, and I've lived it. So I even though I went on to working for, coincidentally, the company that acquired Nortel, Avaya, I still felt uncomfortable, because you really don't know, these larger entities, to you are a head count, really. It's not a small entity where the CEO and it's personal, and you have to cut costs. So you think, well, so we can't really fire that because I know him wife and his son goes to school, and it is not like that at all. So you have to ensure that you are protected, right? So I while working at Avaya, I decided to start my own entity. Of course, I took the half brave step of course, you create something to see how it works before you step out, right? And that's essentially what happened. I mean, it was a very scary experience, being an entrepreneur, not knowing exactly where you would end up or where the business would end up, if customers actually would listen to you, if they would actually want to buy services or anything at all that you would have selling, right? I remember a couple of years, going after clients and speaking to them, and there's one particular client I wanted to land before I thought, this really could work. I could create my own managed service, MSP. I went to the client for year after year trying to get this maintenance contract, trying to get, so go in and take over their IT network and manage their systems. And I tell my team members all the time that I looked at that client as though I was looking at a girl, right? So you know that she has a man, but him not really doing nothing, so. No, not really doing nothing. He's not good for her. But they know that what you have is superior, right? So you don't badmouth the man, right? You don't try and put down the other entity. You simply uplift yourself and demonstrate effectively the value that you have to offer to her, the business, right? And ensure that the business sees exactly what you have to offer, not just short term, but they know that it's not just a startup that is going to be here for 1 year, 1 year, 2 years, and will just fizzle away, right? So coming from that, I've encountered with a lot of UA graduates, graduates from UTEC, where we have interviewed in office, and everybody seems to be looking for a job. I mean, not bashing, trying to find employment or anything. You need to, cover your bills. However, I think what we need to push more of in Jamaica is entrepreneurship, right? You have to learn how to create, right? A lot of the technical minds that are being hired are being coupled with critical thinking and business processes. Now, in order for you to effectively create a solution, you have to immerse yourself into a situation, right? And I believe that is something that is lacking, and my colleagues on the panel spoke to it eloquently earlier, where they mentioned that the options, yes, the options are on paper brilliant based on accreditations that they would have accrued from CXC, GCSE, CAPE, A-levels, which you may have taken, but the skills that really demonstrate to the employer that, listen, I am different from the rest is significantly lacking, right? I remember when I was a network engineer, the moment I found out, I call it my transition from a boy to manhood. I was upgrading a network at one of our local airports, and had a new network to deploy, and went through the necessary checks, tests, ensure that everything was good, at least I thought so. Did the upgrade, everything seemed fine. The CIO came running. Everything is down. What do you mean everything is down? The FITS was down, that's the flight information display system, down. Nobody could check in or check out. You saw queues of line in the airport terminal because of an upgrade that I did, right? Now, that is when you realize, because anybody can install a system, anybody can install a network, but can you fix it when it is broken, right? Now, that is when you realize what you are truly made of, and that is what I found is lacking, the ability to assess situations. A lot of students, they know they have the information, however, to pull on the information that is needed and effectively troubleshoot and say, listen, this problem is possibly as a result of X, Y, Z, to find and accept the result, to get the customer up and running, to adhere to that SLA that you would have signed with the customer. That is where I find, it is the skill sets are lacking. Speaking from the shoe or the shoe of a managed service provider, right? And I believe if the partnership, the necessary partnerships are done between the private and the public sectors, with the universities, to truly understand what is really expected of the students, we would see a much better cohort turning out, a much better group of IT professionals to be able to manage our customer environments, as well as manage the different private and public sector networks that we have in Jamaica. I also realize that there's a fear amongst young persons to really step out and create opportunities. And over my years of doing research and realizing that a lot of great businesses came from just simple ideas. They said Uber is the worst idea that ever worked, right? Some guy just thought that, what if we could get a car by pressing a button on your phone? I mean, a lot of persons I'm sure have thought about that, but nobody really invested or tried to develop it. Airbnb. 3 guys went to a conference and could not find accommodations, so they got a house and rented 3 air beds and called the company Air Bed and Breakfast. And look on Airbnb now. You know, for example, Virgin Atlantic. Richard Branson was stranded in an airport trying to go somewhere. I mean, yes, he had money at the time. He decided to get a plane, charter an aircraft. He wrote on a blackboard, you know, I think it's $27 or $26 flight to wherever he was going. Walked around the airport and filled the plane in about an hour. When he got to his destination, one of the persons said to him, "Boss, you know, if you really perfect your customer service, you would have a good thing." Called Boeing the next day, Virgin Atlantic, right? It is just out of random situations that we can develop and, you know, harness great opportunities, great products. And a lot of us, I realize, you know, we have this fear of going out and you know, trying to get that going. So I want to implore to the university students that are coming out, yes, it's good to try and find a job, but try and create. We need a lot of creators. I've been to Silicon Valley, and the buzz in the place, it is next to none. You know, just to see the kind of atmosphere and energy, you know, that was there, and everybody was just bouncing ideas off each other, you know, trying to, what can we do next, what can we do? You know, it was an amazing thing. And the area that I know will be driving that kind of development is the area of IoT, which I'm very passionate about, because MSTech has done quite a bit in that space. And everybody generally thinks, you know, IoT is simply the smartwatch, turning on your lights, you know, opening and closing your door, you know, your smart scale that I have at home that my wife generally thinks the information is wrong. Whatever, what IoT is the opportunities are endless. We at MSTech co-developed a solution here in Jamaica with our German company, where we are now able to give the management of a particular telco, give them the management of their cell site in the palm of their hands and in their knock, right? And when we show and tell persons about the solution, they are amazed that we developed this in Jamaica. And it has been so successful that this particular telco is looking to deploy this across a couple of their other territories, right? And the workforce that I use to develop this system, you'd be surprised as to where the technicians came from. I mean, a lot of persons would have probably looked on them and thought, you know, they may not have the necessary education or background, but talent comes from everywhere. It's just the belief in yourself that you can actually create something. And I've always said to my team that I have the ability to identify talent and how to, you know, structure the skill set, because Steve Jobs didn't really code. He knew how to manage the persons who did, you know. So you have to believe in yourself, in your product, be willing to sell it and stand by what it is that you want to develop. For the persons who are still in university, a great part of everything, and Malaka said it earlier, everything has some amount of software, right? And there's one thing I have to say, and I want everybody to you know, repeat it. Once it has, if it's software, it's hackable. If it's connected, it is exposed. If it's software, it's hackable. If it's connected, it's exposed, right? So the whole chain of IoT presents a whole new world of security, right? Everybody wants IoT. That's where the world is moving, right? Everybody, you have a bunch of persons that are pushing, you know, for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. However, there's a great opportunity in this space for persons to develop security around IoT. You have a lot of companies like Facebook and Yahoo and Google that have what they call bug bounty programs. Right? I'm not sure how other persons know about them. And for the persons who are in universities, that's actually an avenue that you can use to earn revenue, right? To even pay for your tuition. Everybody knows the stresses with SLB. These companies have programs ranging from payouts from 500 US dollars go up to 300,000. Some have no max, right? So if you can look on their system, you can even go on it, bug bounty online, and check and see what programs are out there and see what they want you to do is to delve into their technology, delve into their programs, find bugs that they have never yet identified. Once you can address that and point it out to them, there's a serious payout for you, right? So there are ways that you can take advantage of this new thrust of IoT and security, right? There are a lot of persons say now that IoT is a phase, but it really isn't. Companies like Google bought Nest, which is a thermostat company, for $3.2 billion. Samsung bought a smaller company called SmartThings for, I believe, 3.5 million US dollars. Now, if they were to invest this amount of money into these smaller companies, it's because they have seen the growth potential, right? It must be because they have seen where everything is going around IoT, right? You can create different applications for a lot of different entities. We are working with RADA right now on a system that will essentially allow the farmers to get critical information to know and understand when to plant, where to plant, and what kind of crop would give the greatest amount of yield just based on IoT, right? So the market is extremely ripe, right? The opportunities are tremendous, and I want to urge and implore the university students to really look into the possibilities that surround IoT because they are absolutely endless. My name is Marion Sparks, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. Thank you very much to our presenters. We had a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge from the public and the private sector, from the employed and the self-employed. Now at this time, we're going to give you an opportunity to ask questions. So of our presenter, the panel that is here, are there any questions? I'm inviting you to speedily take up the microphone and just pose those questions so we can benefit from their knowledge. Any questions? Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead. Well, the AV guys want the mic. Yes, there you go. Yes, otherwise the video won't sound so good.
Okay, so we've heard this theme throughout the presentations, and it's just to be able to mix the soft skills and the human skills with people who are extremely competent technically. Now, I studied HR and I studied IT. So I was immersed in a world where I had these technically brilliant people with no people skills. And it was always interesting to me. So I did the IT degree, and we had one or two courses where you would learn about creative writing, public speaking, and I did all the work for that, for all of my IT counterparts. And then I did another HR degree, and there was one or two courses in IT, and they did. So I want to know, from an academic perspective, how do we ensure that when the students come out in the working world, they have those skills? Because generally I found that people who are brilliant technically just don't naturally come with that. So for Mario, he's a personable guy, he has emotional intelligence, he knows how to speak to people, he can be creative, right? But I have found that the combination is rare. But if we instill it from somehow into the academic world, then perhaps we can do better with putting out people who have both and who can be successful entrepreneurs, because we really need both.
Very good question. Any particular panelist, or we'll just open it up to the panel? Just push the mics there, guys.
So I'll just jump in. I definitely agree. It is very, very rare. And I know in terms of even my team, and I have a fairly team, and it's few and far between that you'll find somebody who is technically sound and competent as well as personable. So I do agree though that it's just not been part of our training. It hasn't been part of our DNA. Something such as something I was talking to our head of marketing the other day about branding, right? And there's a lot of conversation about your brand, and it's something that you need to be mindful of, and you need to create your brand. I'm like, what is brand? Like, I don't know, I just need to do the work. And no, you don't. It's just a different way of thinking, and for them, because that's their training, it is natural. So even when marketers are selling absolutely nothing, everybody's ready to buy. But I can have something perfectly coded, awesome, and you need it, you know. You absolutely need it because your business is going to close if you don't have it. But I can't, for anything, sell it to you. And it's just because, as I said, it's not part of our DNA, it's not part of our training. So I do agree that the partnership has to happen. It has to be a skill set that we consider as important as coding. It has to be as important as everything else that we're doing, because if I'm building something that nobody's willing to buy, Mario wouldn't have a job, right? They wouldn't have a business. They have to. It is a completely necessary skill set. I agree.
I can speak to that as well, because going back to my Nortel days, they had a set of they had a team that the title of the engineers were called sales engineers, right? And what the idea was that, as opposed to just having engineers who spoke tech and spoke, through jargons of that would oftentimes, go over the heads of others, they found persons who had technical backgrounds and a baseline technical skill set, and then they trained and developed them to get to that point. And it is something that we have been trying to develop in-house as well, because they are brilliant engineers that even are on my team that the human side, it's just not there, and it is a challenge that we have, I have, and I'm still trying to. We have different sessions that we speak to them about, grooming and how to speak and how to develop, customer service and all that. But it is a steep learning curve, and it's something that we are trying to develop internally.
All right, we are running a little bit, well, we are running behind schedule. So what I'm gonna do is ask, I see we have 2 more questions here. I think if we can do those 2 questions, I would ask our host, Bridget, to come up and give the vote of thanks. I know we're a little bit behind, but let's get these questions in and proceed.
Good afternoon, I'm Cuthbert Lloyd. I think Douglas, you said that because you knew that I had 3 questions. I'm going to pick one. Since we still have our international guests here, certainly can join with the panelists. Now, in Jamaica, the developing country, we hear these global trends, what's happening in highly developed countries, which have different demographics, different metrics than we have in our country. And therefore, when I hear what we have locally versus what Ghana, Real Decoy, and other global leaders present to us, we have a gap between our reality and where we would like to be. As you gentlemen have shown us the pathway to glory in information and communication technologies. So one of the discussions that I would encourage GSS to foster is, how do we realistically build that pathway from where we are to where we would like to get to? Because part of our inhibitor are our directors, our board members, or senior managers who may not have the same appreciation as the IT community or the entrepreneurs who have actually gone where we have not been before and would like us to follow. So I don't know if anybody has put that thought together. How do you present these global trends and realities to us so that we can actually get there through our own institutions, the bureaucracies that we have, the fears and inhibitions that we have, the lack of resources that we have in our country to be able to reach to that standard. Another question, so I leave that for a different forum because that certainly will, but I'd certainly invite any initial responses.
Well, Foti, I was going to offer a response. And it's a question that is posed quite often to me, and this is from my counterparts in other ministries, agencies, and departments. And it is the challenge to get the executive or their PSs or so forth to support certain initiatives. And the question is, how am I able to get certain things done in tax? And my response is normally in terms of how do you put forward that request for that support? How do you communicate that need? And what I keep saying is that I talk in implications, all right? So not only do I make a request to say something is needed, but I also make it very clear what happens if I don't get it. And there are very few executives, right, that are going to be hearing what the implications are and knowing that it was brought to their attention, they did not take action and cause that entity or that organization to suffer the consequences. And so, and if it is that I make my submission and it is not actioned, I wait a while and I send it again. And I make reference to the fact that it was already brought to your attention. The thing is that what is happening right around the globe, right, is right in our faces because we are aware of what is happening. And likewise, the decision makers, they may not know all of the intricacies and the details surrounding, you know, what that means of vulnerability and that we're exposed. But if it is, you say to them, listen, if we get hit with that, we cannot service our customers, we can do nothing. No one is going to be hearing that and not stop to think and to find the budget to be able to support that. And that is what I have found to work.
I think another important thing is that we have to build an ecosystem. You know, certainly one of the things that I saw in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley, is that building a company for them is almost like a commodity. They can start with an idea, and they have an entire ecosystem that can take you from an idea to a company, to a very, very large company, to like a Facebook or a Twitter. We don't necessarily have that here, and that's something that we're trying to build out right now. That's something that GCS is working on, that's something that Idea Lab is working on. And then certainly in addition to that, we also have to have a venture capital market or angel investor market. Persons who actually know how to spot good ideas and can actually nurture talent and take you from one stage to the next stage. So those are critical things, but it certainly starts with building an ecosystem within the country.
All right, we are pressed for time. There was one more.
Okay, though, yeah. Listen, you know, you hear about the new careers in IT, and I hear the disaffection with the person who just loves low-level technology. So in this room of maybe 80 persons, there may be some people who are now keeping very quiet because all they want to do is work with low-level technology. And therefore, the transformation of that IT guy, which I hear, need to dispense with. What about those folks who don't really care about interacting with other persons outside of their sphere of really digging deep into technology? There was a thought once where in fact, if someone loves something, you let them become the top expert in that area and encourage them to continue with that. And I'm hearing a little dichotomy here that, listen, you know, that sort of focus is in the 80s and dead. So I would love someone to comment on that. Is there no place left for the person who only wants to dig deep into the technology where nowhere one else wants to go?
Any takers for that one? That's a pretty deep one, Cotty. I think we'll have to pick that one up, Cotty.
Because I speak to grade 3ers, grade 6ers, high school people, university graduates, people who are doing their MBAs and groups, and I hear people all they want to do is discover, fix things, but I'm not hearing that affection. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Right, so to understand exactly what you're asking is that you're asking what are the future possibilities for engineers who want to work on legacy products?
Sorry. I am hearing that the person who just loves the technology and to go deep into the technology, there's no place for that person because we may need to be able to be connected to customers. No? Did I misunderstand? Is I mishear?
Always space for research and development.
Exactly, because especially coming off the back of my presentation in regards to IoT, you know, the IoT space is so wide and the opportunities are so vast that it requires persons who want to deep dive into various verticals and to marry different types of platforms and technologies to their needs. So there's absolutely space for that. Absolutely.
Thank you. The last one is on a soft skill.
All right. There was one lady that has been waiting there. Let me just make that the last one. And all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's not a question, it's just a comment and more of a little story. So I'm, strangely enough, from university and the Department of Sociology, Psychology, and Social Work. And it's strange for me to be here, but it is a manifestation of the relationship between our department and IT. And there have actually been some discussions and partnerships with JITSA and my department. And out of it has come practicum placements, PhDs looking at digital disruption or starting to, and other opportunities for employment. So you can have collaboration between the soft skills and the IT if you look in the right place. And we certainly invite you to come to us to talk about how we could help you develop the skills that you're looking for.
Thank you very much. And with that, I would invite our ostensible host to give us the vote of thanks. Please welcome our host, Bridget.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so very much to come. When Sheldon asked me, where is he, about hosting this event, it was a no-brainer for me. IT jobs, the University of the West Indies, marriage made in heaven. It was the level of the high standard that the Jamaica Computer Society is putting out under Sheldon's leadership. It was without hesitation, yes. I commend you and the team for the wonderful menu of topics covered. Very, very relevant. There was an excellent mix of the global, thanks to our Gartner partner. And sir, Steve, when I had a little discussion with him, I said, we're perhaps not in day 2, but we are perhaps like day 1.5. We're not yet dead, but we're Well, but thank you very much for the enlightening presentation. And Jeff, real decoy, very grateful for the sponsorship, the presentation. The minister, I was quite grateful for the depth of his presentation. He spoke to us from the very low level. I heard somebody saying that we just a question about us wanting to do the low level job, but it was from the low level to artificial intelligence, to cybersecurity. I was very impressed with the awareness and the depth of his understanding of the sector and where we can go with it. So we're grateful for his leadership and his taking the time, because that validated the symposium for us, having the stamp of the minister on the event. No, the panel discussions, the richness of the presentation was commendable. When I sat down there, I said to myself, I think the IT profession is a very noble, dynamic, wide, interesting. I'm still struggling to get, I have 3 girls, and I'm still struggling to get even one of them to come into IT. But there's just so much that you can do, and when you hear from the practitioners, and Sheldon, you got a good selection. You got an entrepreneur, you got a tax collector. No, and I mean, her experience, we got it, Natasha. We're not entitled. So the message was well, and the practical, the core competence that Doreen Donnell mentioned in her presentation, you know, electricity, technology. I tell them in our world that technology today is like electricity of yesterday. If you don't have the technology working, it's just as if the lights are out. But having somebody from the electricity company telling us and emphasizing the importance of those core competence, resourcefulness, those softer skills, that if you don't have it, no matter how good you are at programming, it really, it makes a big difference. And in fact, for me, I mean, when Milako was talking about Fortran, we started off as programmers, you know, those are long, long days ago. But the transition and the way that the job evolves, and the more you are willing to think like the user and become the user and make sure that you're providing for them, it is the farther you can go. So the lessons that you provided for us from your practitioner's point of view were excellent, and thank you all very much. Now, I have to thank the sponsors, the teams and partners, and I must put a plug in for the University of the West Indies. We not just for the lovely atmosphere that you have here, but also for the programs that we offer. And I see Dr. Gujan there and Dr. Mugiza. Could you stand, please, because I need to promote our programs. If you have any questions afterwards, please go and talk to them. We have excellent software engineering programs and a lot of things that you partner with. My colleague over there explained. I have to put a plug in for the University of the West Indies and our programs. And of course, when we finish here, and I'm finishing now because I know vote of thanks are usually, which is, you know, quickly, we wrap it up. You can go across the road. We have a lovely campus over there, so you can visit us over there. But last point is, or 2 last points. I am grateful for the way we started with a prayer. I think I'm not going to end with a prayer, but I'm grateful for the Lord's guidance in this proceedings, and also to thank the caterers. We were well and ably fed. So I think you all are satisfied now. Please network and have a good rest of the day. Till the next symposium, Sheldon, October. So just stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Just a reminder, folks, our presenters are still around. And the sponsors are here, so you can network. We have Real Decoy over to my left. There's the Real Decoy guys. We have Sheldon over by Idea Lab. And I believe Steve is still around. Oh, and not to mention Spur, right? Open Spur? Spur Open. Thank you very much. I want to sit down with you and understand that technology a little bit better. You know? Awesome, man. Awesome.